Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Our next guest, Republican strategist, Matt Mackowiak, here on the Chad Hasty Show. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Great, Chad. Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing great. We'll start here statewide. Early voting beginning today here in the great state of Texas. Are there any primary races that you're interested in, that you're watching, that is somewhat interesting here in Texas?
Well, certainly not on the Republican side. There's really no action on the statewide level. You really only have the Railroad Commission and U.S. Senate races that are statewide, although there are some judicial statewide races. On the Democratic side, there's a 12-way race for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate, which I think you and I have talked about on your air before, and that is going to be interesting to see which two people get in the runoff. I think there's probably 4, maybe 5 who could potentially. On the Republican side, I would say the interest to me is down ballot. I mean, you've got a handful of congressional races that have really interesting primaries. Only really one that affects an incumbent. Kay Granger of Fort Worth has been challenged by a conservative candidate in kind of the rural county just west of Tampa named Chris Putnam, who's been supported by some conservative groups. But there's a number of other open seat races all across the state, a couple in Houston, one in Central Texas, a couple up in West Texas, as you know, and in the Conway district and in the Thornberry district. So I'm interested kind of to see how those dynamics, work out. You've got some allegations of carpetbagging. You've got some self-funders. You have some fairly traditional, Republican candidates. So there's certainly a lot of action, but at the statewide level, no, it's mostly on the sort of local level, congressional. Yeah. And then in the legislative races, there's even less action, to be honest with you. There are a couple incumbents who are facing primaries. There are a couple open seats of interest, but State House and State Senate is really, really pretty quiet.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the 23rd Congressional District. Obviously, Will Hurd retiring. That seat's up for grabs. Democrats want that seat. Republicans want that seat. What type of Republican can win that seat, in your opinion?
Yeah, and I'll say full disclosure, I'm helping Tony Gonzalez, who's running in that seat, and there's a pretty good number of people running there. If you look at the field, there's really only 2 people who've raised any money. Gonzalez has raised about a little over $400,000. I think there's a candidate from Medina County named Raul Reyes who's raised around $75,000 or $100,000. The rest have really raised almost nothing. It is a tough district. Will Hurd has found a way to win it 3 times in the last 3 elections by very narrow margins. The seat had switched parties 4 times in the 5 elections preceding that. So it's your very traditional swing district. Romney got 51% there, but Trump got 46% there. So it shows you kind of what that range is. It's 2/3 Hispanic. Gina Ortiz-Jones, who ran last time and kind of overperformed and lost to Will Hurd by less than 1,000 votes, is running again and raising big money. So in terms of the kind of candidate, look, it does take someone who has crossover appeal, who can win independents, who can do well with Hispanic voters. I think someone like Tony Gonzalez, who's Spanish-speaking, who has a 20-year record in the Navy, whose parents are Mexican legal immigrants, I think is the kind of candidate that can do that. And that's part of the reason why I think Will Hurd decided to endorse him, on the belief that he can win, and it's important that we hold that seat if we can. So there's no question that in the fall, that will be one of the top races in our state.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, on the national side, things are going to get interesting, Matt. They already have. But for the Democrats, Mike Bloomberg has qualified to make the debate stage. I don't know if he actually wants to be on the debate stage because so far his strategy of just paying for ads has been working. How does this change things with Mike Bloomberg now being on stage in Nevada?
Yeah, look, this is actually, I think, a big moment tomorrow night on MSNBC, this debate from Las Vegas. It is the first time Bloomberg will be really a fully participating candidate. He's been able to skate by with his television ads about his being a Republican in the past, about having endorsed against Obama, I think twice. These are, big questions that he's going to have to address in front of, a live audience in a swing state of Nevada. I'm a little puzzled that he's going to be on a debate stage in Nevada if he's not on the ballot in Nevada.
Yeah.
But it shows these debates are not just about the states that are being held in; they're national debates that affect that affect the race. I think the other thing to watch, Chad, is Bloomberg has a history of really not suffering questions and criticism very well. He's a bit arrogant. He's a bit short. He has a bit of a temper. I don't think it's going to be, really bad, but I think you may see it flash at times in this debate because I do think he's going to be under withering criticism, particularly from Bernie Sanders, since Bloomberg sort of plays into so much of what Bernie Sanders' message has been throughout this campaign and his last campaign.
Well, and if you're the so-called moderate candidates, the Amy Klobuchar, even though I don't think he is, Pete Buttigieg, they're considered the moderate candidates in this thing, along with Biden. I would think that they also have to train their attacks on him. I mean, is this going to be everybody ganging up on Mike Bloomberg to stop his rise in the polls?
Yeah, I think it very well may be. I mean, you can absolutely imagine a scenario where both Sanders and Warren go after him, given their focus on the billionaire class.
Yeah.
I do think it's an interesting question as to whether those so-called moderate Democrats will go after him too, since they are going after the same vote. And so strategically it would make sense. But this is always a risk in a multi-candidate race because anytime you attack someone, you will hurt them, but you hurt yourself, and you could potentially benefit someone else. And so that is, I think, a question mark. I mean, what will the lines of attack be in the moderate lane against Bloomberg? I think part of it is going to depend a lot on what his answers are. And we just haven't yet seen, number one, we haven't seen him get attacked and defend himself. But number two, we haven't really seen him, nailed down on policy. And his views have really been all over the place the last, 5 or 6 years. So it could be that what you're going to see is one of those moderate candidates maybe not open up an attack on him, but maybe respond to something he says, to a statement he makes about health care, about, climate change, about gun control, whatever the issue is. You could see them respond to him rather than go after him directly. But yeah, look, this is an important debate. I mean, you can imagine a scenario where this may be the last debate for a couple of these candidates. Maybe they get on the stage in South Carolina as well. It'd be interesting to see. But Tom Steyer may also, it'll be interesting because now I think his wealth is going to be more of a factor since he's been moving up in South Carolina, which a state that he's had almost entirely to himself up until now.
Very interesting. Matt, tell folks how they can sign up for your newsletter and also how they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, Chad, you're one of our subscribers to Must Read Texas, a newsletter that we send it every weekday morning before 9 a.m. We take all the top news from around the state and put it into one clean, easy-to-read email delivered by 9 a.m. Over 3,000 Texans receive it. You can sign up for a free 1-week trial at mustreadtexas.com. The podcast is called Mac on Politics. You can find it in the iTunes Store, on Google Play, on Stitcher, and on Spotify.
All right. Very good, Matt. Appreciate your time today. We'll visit with you next week.
Look forward to it, Chad. Take care.
That's Matt Mackowiak here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO.